How are we doing? Like that energy. Let's hear it for whoever on staff managed to condense these two luminaries' bios into 3 sentences. For those who don't know, Krista Tippet is a Peabody Award-winning broadcaster, a National Humanities Medalist, and a New York Times best-selling author. She created and hosts the weekly national public radio show On Being and was awarded the National Humanities Medal by President Obama. Jane Fonda. That's it, that's the whole thing. Jane Fonda is a 2-time Academy Award-winning actor, producer, author, activist, and fitness guru. She continues to lead the charge on the climate emergency via Fire Drill Fridays, the national movement to protest government inaction on climate change, which she started in October 2019 in partnership with Greenpeace USA. And we are here today to talk about none of that. We're going to talk about caretaking. And what I wanted to start with, given that when we talk about a community of care, we're talking about those of us who at some point in our lives will receive care, whether that is in our infancy, at a point in our life in which we get sick, perhaps have a disability, as we age, and the caretakers. Most of us will be one, the other, both at some point in our lives. Krista, when you think about caretaking, who is it that you think of?
First, I want to say that it's really fun walking out on stage with Jane Fonda.
It's not bad.
So I'm thinking, first of all, the stories that we've heard today, you know, they're all gripping, right? This is the drama of life that we will, all of us at the beginning and many of us at the end, and for all kinds of reasons in between, be vulnerable and need care. And it just comes through in the stories. So I've been thinking of my friend Nell Hilsley, who died this month last year at 95. And she was caring for her husband with dementia for many years at the end. And she wasn't in direct service, but what's coming into focus for me today is that whatever she was doing, she found a way, in fact, to be a caregiver, though she wouldn't have called herself that. She was on the board of a spiritual retreat center, and she created this program to bring single mothers who never get a break and never get rest and never just have the experience of being nourished, to bring them on these 5-day retreats. But it was intricate work because she also had to create the structure around them so that they could feel good about leaving. And for me, she was a person who believed, when I had this idea for my show, which was in that time and place, was a mountain to climb. And she was just a rock in keeping me going. Actually, in fact, giving me this muscular hope that we're going to talk about. So I think her care that she ended up extending, I think she was also just like a source of life for the people she played bridge with every week at this. She was living in a wonderful home and hospital for the elderly at the end. So yeah, I think I see now that her superpower was caregiving, and she was caring for the whole person.
Yes, and I love that there can be both formal caregiving and informal caregiving that exists in a wider circle. For you, who is it you think of? What do you think of when you think of caregiving?
I think of it as a job. My family is not a very caring type family. And because we're privileged, there's always been a hired person to do the caregiving. And, I think most recently I've fallen in my shower and I can't get up, that ad, not me, the old lady on the floor, and I fractured my pelvis, so I had caregivers. It had been a while since that had happened to me, and none of them were married. They all came from, it was fascinating, Iran, Philippines, and elsewhere. And what I discovered very quickly is they barely made more than it cost them to get to work. because they had to live, all of them, at least 2 hours away from where I live. And what they went through to get there, some of them had to take many buses, changing. Some of them took, Uber, which meant that by the time they got to me, they maybe made $10 a day. And, so, fortunately, I was able to help them with that. But it just broke my heart. Hi.
I didn't feel I had enough luminaries.
Hi.
I'm not sure that Tarana needs an introduction, but I want you to have a second to catch your breath because she has been sprinting to get here. Tarana Burke has been working at the intersection of racial justice, arts and culture, anti-violence, and gender equity for nearly 3 decades. In 2017, when her hashtag...
42nd and 3rd.
In 2017, when her hashtag #MeToo went viral, she ignited a global conversation around sexual violence. Her many honors include being named the 2017 Time Person of the Year, and in 2020, being named one of USA Today's Women of the Decade. Did you sprint in those heels?
Absolutely. No,
Incredible. The question was, when you think of caretaking, who does it make you think of?
Okay. Whew. Not me today. Who does it make me think of? Well, it makes me think of a long laundry list of people who have taken care of the people in my family, the people in my community. It makes me think of Black women first, because we are always taking care of the people around us. This year it makes me think of myself, because I have become a caretaker for my mom, who is not going to be here tonight because she, like me, had the wrong time. The idea of caretaking has expanded in my mind now. I've always thought of caretaking. When I was younger, I thought of it as a very, straightforward role, like people who clean and cook and things like that. But when I think of caretaking now, it is so much more. There's the very brass tacks way that we have to do the things that we do to make sure that people eat and get health care needs. But because I have to do that, there's people who take care of my heart. I'm so tired, y'all.
Tarana, can I just tell you, this is the first panel I've ever been on where they told me where the tissues were in case we needed them. So
That's
you're
good.
in good company.
In the car over here, Jen called me. This is the truth. Jen called me and said, "Where are you?" And I've been so excited about this all day. This was just Mercury's in retrograde, and this was just a cosmic mess up. Because I think about this a lot now. Caretaking has taken over my life. This is my second CareFest, and I just fell in love with this the first time I did it, because the idea that we gather to talk about this issue, and what you all have done to politicize this issue is fascinating to me, and it's important to me. But there are layers to it. And on a cab ride over here, I thought about my sister, Jen. I don't even know where she is. I'm sure she's somewhere glaring at me. But how we take care of each other. And I mean literally me and my girls, like Jen and Fatima and Monica, our little crew, how we take care of each other. They take care of my heart. When something pops up in the news or in our little feed, we text each other immediately, right? Are you okay? That kind of caretaking is invaluable. When something happens with my mom, there are groups of people who I can go to immediately, So when I think of caretaking now, I think bigger and broader than just the kind of political ways that we think of it or the logistical ways that we think of it. There are layers of caretaking that happens all the time, that are happening all the time that we don't think of. That invisible labor that label that we think of, it's so much bigger and broader. The people who are surviving, every single day are surviving because of the layers of caretaking that are happening that nobody thinks about. And because of this work that's happening here, now I have such a broad and expansive way that I think about it.
I had a pretty humbling moment when I had my first daughter. I had her in December of 2016. So it was right after Trump had been elected. And I just sort of like went into mom land where I was like nursing and not sleeping. And I poked my head up 6 months later and the world was completely different. And it gave me great grace for the fact that caretaking is a full-time job in a lot of cases. I think it's really easy when you are a news junkie to be like, well, everybody knows this. And everybody follows this. And it's like, no, some of us were busy sleep training babies. And some, like it just, for someone for whom that had never been my lens on the world, it helped me understand that part of the politics of caregiving is, you're talking about sort of hyper-visibility, right? The fact that you see news stories about each other and you check in to make sure you're okay. And that generally the way we've talked about caretaking is the hyper-invisibility of this work, that it is work that we do not see, and that the people, to your point, Jane, who do this work often do not have a platform with which to tell their own story. And we're in a moment of politics, of movement building, where the sort of fundamental foundational question has been, will our anger and our hope be enough to see us through? And that is the real conversation that I want to have with the three of you today. And I know this is a question you think about a lot, which is, what does it actually require to maintain, to fuel, and to grow hope?
Well, first of all, I think it's hope, like love, is an inadequate word and a ruined word, right? So to be clear, for me, hope is a muscle. It is a choice. It is a practice. It's not idealism. It's not hoping that things will turn out all right. It is looking the world and reality in the face and insisting that things do not have to be this way. And I've been for 25 years, I've been in conversation with people who are leading wise and graceful lives, and a hopeful spirit and a muscular hope is absolutely a through line of every single one of them. I think, to me, I think a definition of hope I have is that hope is an act of imagination with real world consequences, by which I mean that you say the world does not have to be this way, even when everyone else, and so I think, Jen, for example, had this vision, which I'm sure most people didn't believe in, and now so many people can't imagine the world without. You did the same thing. I think probably everyone in this room, I would wager, has brought something into being that other people could not imagine. So it's insisting that the world can be different, that we can be living differently, and throwing your energy, your intelligence, your agency, whatever that is in the world you inhabit, behind that muscle.
Can you give me an example?
Oh, well, I think, this movement is an example. Me Too is an example. I mean, Jane, so many things. I really do believe we all, I suspect, in this room, have brought something into being in this way. What I want to say also is, it is a virtue, and it's not a virtue in the American cultural sense of survival, of an individual, is something that is an individual feat, right? Hope is not easy to carry, and we have to surround ourselves with others, as you have done, who can carry that for us on the days and weeks and months when it's too much for us to ask of ourselves.
I agree. Mm-hmm. I agree. I think that we take words like hope or love, these ideas, these virtues, and we are really flippant with them, right? We are. We say them all the time, and we think about them all the time in these ways that are sort of passive and act like they are not the active ingredients, the activator. And I think that's unfortunate, that there's so much more usefulness in these virtues than we give them. And like for me, hope is it's not like the the thing you sprinkle on top. It's the last ingredient, the last active ingredient, right? So when you are I'm an organizer. It's what I do. It's a thing that I'm good at, that I feel confident saying I'm good at. If we have an idea, if we're all in this room and we're saying we need to make such and such happen, the thing that I'm going to offer is that let's organize, right? So I'm going to say, let's split up the room and say, this side of the room is going to take this side of the room is going to take that, this side of the room is going to take that. And then let's come back together and figure out what these 3 strategies are, right? When you're organizing around an issue, you have to come together with these certain strategies. And once we pull that all together, hope is the last ingredient in that, right? That's the activator. You have to pull all of these strategies together. You have to think about how that's going to move. You have to figure out how you're going to get it funded. You're going to figure out who's moving that. And hope is not just a passive thing that you sprinkle on top like parsley or, you know. You have to have that thing in there. It's like if you baking a cake, you need the eggs. It's an active ingredient. It's a real active ingredient. I think people treat it like garnish, and it's not. If you are organizing something, you need to have people who are actively, I don't want to get all whatever, but it's like if I'm a Christian, the good kind. Just in case there's a soundbite, right? So if we praying, if you need people that are praying, right? Like I need some people that's praying. I need some real prayer warriors in here. I don't want people that's namby-pamby that's just skipping out on things and don't know scriptures and carrying on. You go over there. I need prayer warriors, right? You understand what I'm saying? Folks, you understand what I'm saying? If you come in and help me out, I need you to be a prayer warrior. If you go in my purse right now, you know what I got? I got a little notebook. That's my prayer notebook. So I'm the kind of person that if I say I'm praying for you, I write it in my little notebook. I do, because that's the prayer, to be honest. That's my prayer. When I say I'm going to pray for you, I put your name in my little notebook and I put next to it what the prayer is. Because I'm a prayer warrior in that way. That's how I feel about hope. You need to be real about that thing, right? So when we finish organizing whatever that event is, that's the thing that's going to pull it all together. We have to be real about that. That's an engine, right? We need to figure out these things that we throw around. Love is a real thing. Yeah. I promise you, if I didn't love y'all, if I didn't love humanity, I'd be rich. Are you kidding? I would be absolutely filthy. Capitalism is amazing. I'd be filthy rich. I love to dress nice. And
I saw the heels. They're good.
You know what I'm saying? There's another side to this, Yep. But I love humanity. Love is a real thing. Love is amazing. We need love. We need to utilize love in different ways than just saying, oh my God, I love. No. Love is an engine, it's a driver. Hope is a driver. Mm-hmm. We can't organize, we can't change the world without love. We can't change the world without hope. We can't just throw those words around. We can't change this without care. The word in here, care, is a real thing. Caring for somebody is a commitment. When I say I care for you, when I'm showing care for somebody, that is a commitment. It's almost like a contract between two people. I care. I can't keep talking about my mama because I'm going to start crying. But I care for my mom because I love her. My relationship with my friends, the reason why Jen does this work is because she loves people. It comes from a love for folks. I just really want us to sit with these virtues and these things for a moment because it disappoints me the way we throw away these words. And I'm glad this panel is about hope in a real way. And I hope people walk away from this really internalizing that in a particular kind of way.
Well, I think part of the work, too, is understanding that when we talk about love, it's not simply in a dyad. It's not simply for a single person, right? I think sort of our work here is how do you take the love that I may have for my mother and then say, I love all your mothers, and I want all of them to be cared for and protected. I love my children, but I love your children. And I understand that your children are in community with my children, and if your kid comes to school hungry, that has an impact on my kid too, right? Your lived reality and my lived reality are not separate realities. They are very much intertwined. I think that's a big part of the narrative work that has been done. And I think this group is interesting because we are all in our own way storytellers. You may come at it as an organizer. You may come at it originally as an actor and a producer. But the storytelling is a big part of the work. And I wonder when you think about this question of building and preserving hope, where you think the storytelling.
Well, I want to say first, our opponents want us to be hopeless, and so hope is a defiant act.
Wait, make sure the photog got it.
And hope is also a choice.
That's right.
And it's interesting these days. These are very hard, complicated, heretofore, at least for white people, things we have never experienced before. And I realize there's some people that really hang on to despair. I mean, they need it. It's like, oh my God, can you believe what's happening? Fuck that. Hope is saying, let's understand very realistically what's happening. And then let's figure out how we change it.
Yeah.
Hope is, my favorite form of exercise now is a leap of faith. That's why I'm strong. I take leaps of faith all the time. My going to North Vietnam was a hopeful act. It was a leap of faith. I found out that we were bombing the earthen dikes of North Vietnam right before monsoon season, and if it wasn't stopped, hundreds of thousands of people were going to either drown or starve. And I thought, well, Barbarella just came out, and a lot of 300 people, Americans, had already gone to North Vietnam, but not Barbarella. If I go, it's going to have a different effect. And I got into shitloads of trouble, but 2 months later, the bombing of the dike stopped. So that's why hope, we don't know what's going to happen in the future. But it's in the spaces of not knowing that hope, the seeds of hope reside. And when we take action, those seeds sprout. So I like what you said. Hope is a muscle. It's the opposite of what is the word?
Optimism.
Optimism. Ugh. Optimism is saying everything's going to be fine.
Right.
And then you sit back and you have your martini and you forget, you don't do anything. But hope is a muscle. And, I come from a line of seriously depressed people. I don't think anybody but me and my family has been hopeful. And I spent 30 years not as an activist, and I had no hope. It was when I became an activist and met people like this who showed me a whole different way of life, a whole different way of looking at things, and I became hopeful. So, we can choose. We can identify with despair, and boy, do I have. I try not to spend time with them anymore. We can't. Like I get really depressed when I see pictures of starving animals and all what we're doing to all the earth, and I get depressed. So I try not to look. You don't focus there anymore. You focus on what people are doing that is making a difference. And guess what? I am so hopeful. I am so exciting. We're at a pivot point. We are we can get lower, and we probably will. And we probably, I'm looking at black folks in here who historically they already know what this feels like. But we white, especially us white middle-class people, this has never happened before. And we're not going to put up with it. This is a pivot. We can change everything now. And this is what to hold, and it's true. This is actually true. Studying history also helps you be hopeful.
I want to know who Jane Fonda's been hanging out with. Like, you got the memo.
Well, yesterday I was in D.C. with Democracy Alliance and a whole lot of, yeah, and I came away, I am so hopeful.
No, but I mean, listen, this is one of the sort of...
By the way, my bio was way outdated, what you said. No, I just relaunched the Committee for the First Amendment, and we have, in 1 month, we have 2,600 members signed up, and we're going to kick ass. We are the storytellers. We're the ones that create culture. So we're going to let it be known that we have to do this. We have to wear our resistance. We have to talk about it all the time. You know, caregivers have to whisper it in the ears of their patients or whatever you call them. You know, you have to weave it into your media. Well, you do already. So this is a time for hope. Yeah. True. Yeah, I know, you know.
You know, I want to say to this question of storytelling, self-fulfilling prophecy is something that happens all the time,
Yes.
right? And I think about this a lot in terms of our ecological present, that if we only, our ecological present, like if we only tell a dystopian future, same thing with AI, right? If we only tell a dystopian future, that is in fact the reality we are making and walking into. And also, a paradox of this thing, hope, is that the people who have wielded it most gracefully and powerfully often are the people who have the least reason. Right?
Oh,
right?
boy, is that true.
Right, and so I was recently with a group of Palestinians and Israelis who are part of something called the Bereaved Families Forum. People who've lost loved ones to the other side, on both sides of that conflict, and who have stepped forward and become part of this, I'll call it a movement, this group, to say, I will not let my loss be a cause or a reason given for more violence. And one of these women, and it was so beautiful to be with them, and you read the newspaper and you can't imagine that this, not just the care they have for each other, the friendship, and just this story of Israelis and Palestinians is real. But this one woman said to me, she talks to a lot of people, they say, like, I couldn't do what you're doing, I've just given up hope. And she said, you don't have that privilege, right? Hopelessness is privilege.
I want to pull the thread that Jane has put before us, which is this moment of opposition or resistance is built on traditions in this country of movements of resistance and opposition, most notably movements that have been led by Black women. And I do think that Black women are metabolizing this moment very differently than others. And I wonder what you believe we can learn from that tradition. Because I think it's easy to say hope is a practice. I think it is harder to actually put that into practice. Mm-hmm. And I think it is hard for people who want to be helpful but don't know how to be helpful as followers, not just leaders, to meet the moment. And so I wonder what your reflections are on how you actually operationalize this practice of hope.
How do you operationalize this practice of hope? I think something you just said just made me think about that a little bit, right? That about it being a privilege. Hopelessness being a privilege that I think that we don't have, right? Kind of the thing I was saying before, that it's the main ingredient. What Black folks have tended to do, and particularly Black women, is we bake the whole cake. We organize, we see a thing, we know we have to do something about it, we organize around that thing. And by the way, this is what folks in most communities of color have done in this country, right? We tend not to talk about what indigenous folks are doing. We tend not to talk about what Latinx folks are doing. Like, this is what folks in poor communities are doing across this country. We take what we have to make what we need. It's just what we have done over and over and over again. And I think what white folks can learn from us in this moment is that you have to rise to the occasion, period. Mm-hmm. There's just no question about it.
There's no choice.
There's no choice. it really is a privilege to make any other choice, to act like you can do anything but that, to act like you have a choice to be, maybe I'm in, no, because this thing, we operate in these big silos, right? You can be passionate about, I used to say this to young people all the time when I would go to college campuses and they would try to figure out their, what their passion is around social justice. And college is a time to experiment. You can be passionate, it can be environmental justice, it can be sexual violence, it can be whatever. We're all fighting the same boogeyman, right? We're all fighting these same systems of oppression. So be passionate about whatever your thing is, but we have to flank each other. So you can be, my passion is ending sexual and gender-based violence. But I have to do that alongside gun violence. I have to do that alongside environmental justice and blah, blah, all the rest of that thing. I don't have a choice. So take on whatever your passion is, but know that you're fighting that alongside everybody else. Mm-hmm. But do something, right? Figure out whatever that thing is and do something. And what Black folks have done in this country is done something. Mm-hmm. We've done something. Even if it's just voting, even if it's just, hey. Oh,
She's saying you missed it. It was amazing.
Well, that's my best friend. I didn't know she was here. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. It just completely caught me off guard. I'm so sorry. I'm back.
That's how I felt when I saw her sing. I was like, but wait, you have all these other gifts and talents.
She
and
got
you've been
so many
hiding
gifts
this
and
one.
talents. She's the most gifted, talented person I know. I'm so sorry. But we have done something, and we always figure out something to do. But we try to do it by ourselves.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So you have to stop acting like you have a choice. You don't. We're not going anywhere else. This is our country. We talk about it. We can be expats. We're not going nowhere. Y'all not going nowhere. Like, stop. Some people gonna leave. Everybody can't leave. So, since everybody can't leave, stop acting like you have a choice. If you want to learn something for us, look at how we meet every moment that shows up. Every moment that shows up, we figure out how to meet that moment. Y'all don't have a choice. Figure out what your little thing is. Figure out what you're passionate about. Figure out something. Make some choices, and make them now. This thing that's happening right now where people are running around and listen, I said this somewhere else recently. Everybody has a role to play. There are going to be some people who are keeping us safe right now. That's somebody's role. Whilst other people are visioning what's going to happen 30 years from now. Yeah. This moment ain't going to last. Yeah. You know that. Yeah. This moment is not going to last. And I'm going to put this in the context of my work for a minute. If you think about the last moment we had in this country around sexual and gender-based violence before Me Too, it was Anita Hill, right? Anita Hill happened in what, 91, 92? If we had a 30-year plan when Anita Hill happened around sexual and gender-based violence, when Me Too happened, we would have been operating inside of a 30-year plan, right? So, what do we need? We need a plan. MAGA is not a visionary whatever. It's just an opportunity for them to advance a plan that they had 30, 40, 50 years ago. That's all it is. These people ain't brilliant. I mean, you know that. Y'all know they're not brilliant, but they do plan. Mm-hmm. So we have to have plans that are ready to go so that when these opportunities come, we can advance the plan that we have. Somebody got to keep us safe now. That's a role to play. Somebody has to be a visionary for what's coming next, for the next 30 and 40 and 50-year plans. There's a role for everybody to play. Somebody got to find money. You know the building we in. That's a role. White folks, y'all got a lot of money. You want to know what white people can do that black people can't do? You asked the question. You know? So there's a role for everybody to play.
I'll tell you about something that recently gave me hope, which was I was I'm very interested in Latino voters, how Latino voters vote, what is motivating them. And so I spent part of this election in Passaic County, which is the one county in New Jersey that the Department of Justice decided to send election monitors to. It turned a lot of heads in the last election because it's a plurality Latino county that swung for Trump. And so I was spent the day on the streets talking to voters, talking to organizers, and one of the things that stood out to me from organizers who have been in the community like day to day for the last year is that all of the fear around ICE has meant that their work has just gotten harder, right? That you used to do door to door, you'd ring the doorbell, someone would come out, they'd talk to you face to face, you'd be able to build that relationship, that now all of a sudden people don't want to open their door, so they're talking to you from the first floor window, second floor window, like, and you're screaming back and forth, are you registered to vote? Yes, I'm ready, you know, like, and these are US citizens who are too scared to come out of their house and interface with organizers. And one of those organizers told me about a person that they had been speaking with who said, listen, like I voted for Democrats my entire life. I voted for Trump in the last election, and none of it's working out for me. So I just feel like maybe this system is not built for me. Mm-hmm. His takeaway was that he just wasn't going to participate, that it wasn't a partisan question. And so I had that feeling in my gut, because to me that is the worst thing that could possibly happen, that people think democracy or participation is not the thing that's for them. And then on election day, I met a woman, she was probably my age, she had her young daughter with her, she had gotten to the poll around 5 o'clock, she was very harried, and I said to her, like, can I just have 2 seconds of your time? And she said, my husband is in the hospital, he just had a stroke, but I am watching what is happening to immigrants in my community, and it was worth the 15 minutes it was gonna take me to leave his hospital bed to come here and to cast this vote. Right. And that to me was a moment of hope. Yeah, it's hopeful, right? Sure. Where it's like there was personal sacrifice, but she also understood what was on the line. And she herself is a US citizen, but even in undocumented folks who are currently being swiped out of their neighborhoods, she sees herself. And it is that ability to see ourselves in others that I think is going to be foundational to this moment. I only have 3 minutes left, so everybody gets 1 more minute. The way in which you can answer whatever question you want, or the question I'm giving you, which is the way you personally cultivate hope, like you yourself, Jane.
I don't work alone. I'm part of a movement. I have a posse. I have an organization that keeps me. You know, I'm a movie actor, and so I'm not an organizer. So I need people with me who can be sure that I'm being strategic in what I do. And so late in life, this is what I've found, and that keeps me on the path and hopeful and seeming to be very smart. And very young. I just have, it's an attitude. Yeah. No, I think when you're faced with what we're faced with and we say, fuck it, I'm going to be hopeful. I'm going to hang out with people who are hopeful, people who aren't wed to despair, and I'm going to be active. You know, this is historic, what we're going through right now. This has never happened. And I don't know about you, but I love history. And, you know, we know what happened during the civil rights. We know who did what, who was on which side. You know, we know these things. It's true right now. They're going to know who did what, whose side are you on. So we have a chance now to make history. Isn't that exciting? I feel so lucky to be alive right now.
All those leaps of faith.
Yeah. What I want to say is, I said this at the CareFest in LA a couple of years ago. I want to say it again. When I watched, you know, in 2020, as you say, the callings and the reckonings before us right now are the work of the rest of our lifetimes. They are intimate and they are civilizational all at once. And they all got laid bare in the midst of the pandemic and the lockdown. The first one that got laid bare is this extraordinary thing that as societies, we had to ask the question of what and who is essential. Who is doing essential work upon which our life depends and the health of our society, and what is non-essential. Hedge fund managers were not essential, right? Like, really, if you look at the professions that were deemed essential, almost all had something to do with the giving of care. And they are almost all the work that we least reward and value. And one of the things I was thinking as I was watching this unfold, first of all, is I can't wait until this pandemic ends so we get on with this, and thank God iGen is already there building this movement, right? Right now, we live in a society where vulnerability almost is being criminalized, and more of us are becoming vulnerable for all kinds of reasons. The moment has come for this movement, and hope is just claiming that and stepping into it.
Beautiful.
Pressure. I think more and more every day in my work and generally about solutions. I believe that we have been fed so many lies about the existence of solutions to our social problems. I think that we have been socialized to believe that many of the ills that we live with are not solvable, and they are. In Me Too, we talk about solvability. We ground our work in this idea of solvability because I just fundamentally believe that the solutions to most of the things that, like sexual and gender-based violence, are solvable. The solutions are out there, they're just not being scaled and resourced. And so for me, hope, I cultivate hope because it is like the antidote to many of these lies. Mm-hmm. It's like the last antidote to many of these lies, right? These lies that they tell us that these systems that they created, they create these systems that cultivate the violence, that cultivate the illness, that cultivate all of these things. And then they tell us there's nothing we can do about it. It's not true. Mm-hmm. The solutions exist. We have to stand in the truth of that. And we have to use every arsenal in that we have, including hope, to believe that and stand against that. And when I see these solutions that exist out there, it helps me cultivate a lot of hope. That we will change these systems, that we will change our lives, that we are the architects of possibility. And I know that's true. Mm-hmm. I absolutely know that's true. I see it every day. I live it. That's just true. That's what I know. So yeah, that's what helps me cultivate hope.
Please join me. A big round of applause for our panelists.